Okay, we are recording. We are on chapter 7, the next to last knowledge area. Just to review, this is the knowledge area that you're going to have most of your questions from. It's got 30% of the questions on the test out of this knowledge area. Let me just take a poll real quick. Y'all that are on camera, first of all, thank you for being on camera. I appreciate that. But how are you feeling about chapter 7 right now? Do you feel like you have a decent handle on it?
Getting there.
Okay, getting there. That's a response. That's better than nothing. Okay.
The
Okay, let's
questions from last week were a little bit challenging from chapter 7, so I'm hoping today's questions will be a lot easier.
Well, what I'm hoping is that you'll know it better, and that's what makes it easier. How's that?
Good. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, good. Okay, let's get started here. Let me make this a tiny bit smaller. The specify and model requirements task can result in the output of a requirement or a design. What is the difference? It's asking what's the difference between a requirement and design. All the rest of that is fluff. Okay? So what's the difference between a requirement or a design? When the focus is on understanding the need, the outputs are referred to as designs. When the focus is on the solution, the outputs are referred to as requirements. When the focus is on understanding the need, the outputs are referred to as requirements. When the focus is on the solution, the outputs are referred to as designs. A BA can only specify and model a design. They are used interchangeably. Let's eliminate some of these guys. What can we eliminate?
B and D because they're trying to trick us with A and B.
D and
C and D, I think could be eliminated.
okay, these. You want to eliminate B?
No, C as in Charlie and then D as in
C.
Disney.
So even the transcript said that. Okay, so
Oh,
these
sorry.
two are to be eliminated. So which one of these is true? One of them is opposite of true.
B, perhaps?
You feel like B is correct? When the focus is on
Yeah.
understanding the need, the outputs are requirements?
I think so.
I agree with you. That is correct. The need, the definition for requirements is, can somebody tell me? It's something that explains a need. So requirement is need and solution is design. Welcome, Robin.
Hi, I was having a little issue with my computer tonight. Not letting
I
me.
understand. Our speaker in the last meeting was having issues with her computer too, and I couldn't help her. I just had to sit there and watch her deal. Will has been responding to several questions about the solution requirements from confused developers. What is the most likely cause of confusion? The requirements were not validated before handing them over to development. Will neglected to include the developers in modeling efforts, so they're trying to catch up. Developers were just assigned to the project and haven't reviewed the requirements and design documentation, or the requirements were seemingly ambiguous and so most likely weren't verified. This comes from a single sentence in the BABOK about why developers might be confused. Can we eliminate any?
I want to say it's A.
You like A as the answer?
I like A and D.
A and D, yeah, that's, but I'm not sure which one. Tamara says A as
But
well.
I'm probably going to go with A.
Tamara thinks it's A as well. Tamara is on chat. Okay.
D.
So A and D were good choices. You covered your bases there. The requirements were seemingly ambiguous and so most likely weren't verified. So the inference here is if they're verified, they're not going to be confused.
Right.
Right.
And if they're not validated before handing them over to developers, validating requirements ensure they align with the business requirements and will deliver value. So They have to be verified before you're going to hand them over to anybody to have development done. I personally like to verify them with the developers and the testers.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
how are you going to test this? Which, I'm
Perhaps,
sorry, go ahead.
perhaps it will be a good trick. I mean, if we, even without validation, if we verify the requirements and send it to the developers, if it is well verified requirements, the developers will not have any confusion. They are going
That's
to
true.
understand it because it is well verified, but later on we will have issue with the stakeholders because they built something that the stakeholders will not need it.
Okay. So let's talk about the difference between verify and validate and requirements in those two tasks. Verify is when you be sure that your quality is correct and you're looking back toward the business need. Validate is whenever you be sure that all your requirements work together to build something that's going to deliver value. You can't do that step if you don't talk to your developers to say, is this even possible? You know, the people that say, I want you to do this with all the bells and whistles, and you say, wait a minute, let me talk to the developers to see what they can do, or if they have a better way to do it than what we're telling them. So we have to talk to developers to do the verify and the validate because we're talking about building the solution. Everybody good with that? Okay. Which subset of stakeholders are likely to participate in the defined design options task? So just that task? Would it be, the purpose of defined design options is defining the solution approach, identifying opportunities to improve the business, allocate requirements across solution components, and represent design options that achieve the desired future state. So that's our goal. So now let's talk about which stakeholders would be involved with those things. And I can read that again if you want me to. Would it be operational support, domain subject matter expert, sponsor, implementation subject matter expert, operational support, supplier, operational support, project manager, end user, or implementation subject matter expert, regulator, domain subject matter expert? Which ones of those people would be involved in that goal for this task?
I think we can eliminate D, the last option.
Why?
Well, regulator, I mean, it is very unlikely that they be involved in the defined design options.
I think you're right. Can we eliminate any others?
You can eliminate C, because end user wouldn't be one.
You know,
Well,
So we're going to eliminate these two.
I wanted to say B, but now that I'm thinking about it, do we really need the implementation subject matter when we defining something? I think we might, right?
Well, for allocating requirements across
I
solution
think it's A.
components,
Yeah.
they're going to be the ones to say, you know, we're taking this server down on this day.
Mhm.
You can't migrate on this date or things like that.
So, but if we keep B,
Yeah, I'd probably go with B too.
Okay, let's
I will-
test B.
I will go with A.
Why do you like A better?
I don't know, but let's check it for B.
Okay, let's check for B.
B
This
is
is a
correct.
Oh,
subset
wow.
of the stakeholder list for defined design option task. The complete list is this. For defined design option, it's domain SME. They know about the domain. That could be anybody, any role. It doesn't have to be a developer. The implementation SME is a developer. The operational support, the project manager, and the supplier. Those are the stakeholders other than the BA who would be required to be involved in this task. Okay, let's go on. Which of the following is not true about a class in a data model? You will have had to read that technique to be able to get this answer right. Class and a data model. We want the not. So 3 of these are true. A class defines the entity's allowable values. A class contains attributes. A class has relationships with other classes, or a class contains operations that describe what can be done with the class. So which of these are true?
A class does have attributes. Does
A
contain.
class does have attributes, so that one is true.
It also.
I believe C can be also true. A class has relationship with other classes.
Does it?
Well, it is how I remember, at least from the object-oriented, languages. But I'm not sure. It's been a long time.
Okay. Anybody else? So what do we think is the right answer?
Or the not true answer?
The not. Yes. Which one is not true?
I will say D, and the only reason why I'm saying this is it sounds funny. So
I was gonna say D as well.
It sounds funny. Okay.
I will go again with A as you.
Okay.
But let's stick for D.
We're gonna test this and see what we get. It is
Oh.
Oh,
A.
A is
wow.
right.
This is a definition of an attribute, not about a class and a data model.
Yeah.
An attribute is a class defines the entity's
Oh.
allowable values. And so a class
Operations
containing
are-
operations, it does sound funny, but operations are relevant to the definition of a class. I do encourage you to study that 15th technique. You'll see questions about it on the test. I would say 3 questions were on my test. Now, you're not going to get the same test I got because it's random, but still. While analyzing elicitation results and creating representations of those results, which set of activities will a business analyst typically be engaged in? Okay, so we're analyzing elicitation results and creating representation of those results. Which task is this?
Analyzing elicitation results to create.
It's in the specify model requirements.
Yep, this is when we're actually creating the requirement documentation that explains the requirements. So which set of activities would we be engaged with? Would it be modeling requirements, analyzing requirements, designing designing design options, implementing the appropriate levels of abstraction? Would it be modeling requirements, analyzing requirements, representing requirements and attributes, implementing the appropriate levels of abstraction? Number C, modeling requirements, defining requirements architecture, representing requirements and attributes, implementing the appropriate levels of abstraction, or modeling requirements, analyzing requirements, representing requirements and attributes, and analyzing potential value. 3 of these are wrong. How are they wrong?
C is wrong because defining C as in Charlie, sorry.
C, okay.
I don't think defining requirements architecture. I
This one
want
right
to
here.
say, yeah, I don't think it's.
Okay. Anybody agree? Disagree?
I
I'm gonna
agree.
start having to call on people that fall asleep. I'm just gonna have to say it now.
So since I agree with myself, I'll probably go with
Michelle,
D
I
as
agree
in
with you
boy.
though too.
Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
B as in boy and D as in Disney.
Okay.
Oh,
But if I had to pick between the two,
What are the differences?
Would it
I
be
go with
implementing or implementing appropriate levels of abstraction or analyzing a potential value in this one?
let's go with
endless.
B as in boy.
Yeah, and a state of value.
Okay. Business analysts
Very
transform
good.
presentation
Yep.
results by requirements and designs by engaging in these activities, which are the elements in the specified model requirements task. Good logic, good reasoning through it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop here and I'm going to say something. I hope y'all understand my heart here. Those of you who are speaking up, I have confidence that you know it. That probably also means you're maybe a little extroverted, which is great. You know, you don't mind speaking up. People who are a little bit introverted, you ponder things quietly, and speaking up is not your jam. But at the same time, I worry about you because I don't want you to sit down in front of that test screen and think, well, I wasn't really engaged and I'll let everybody else answer. I want you to be fully confident that you are getting these answers, that you're getting them yourself. Because when you get in front of the screen, you're by yourself. We're not here with you, okay? So I just want to encourage you, please speak up so that you know you're getting the answer. And if you make a mistake, fine. We find an area that you can improve, all right? So let's go on. Padma and her team are ensuring all requirements work in harmony as a single whole and support overall business objectives and produce meaningful outcomes to the stakeholder. What is the purpose of this exercise? So this is basically the explanation of one of our tasks. So I'm just going to go to the answers. Is it to manage requirements relationships, to define design options, to harmonize requirements, or define requirements architecture? All requirements work in harmony as a single whole that supports the overall business objectives and produces meaningful outcomes for the stakeholders.
Is it talking about requirement architecture?
I was gonna say D also.
Yeah. D.
All right, votes for D. This is the purpose of define requirements architecture task. Very good. Thank you for speaking up. A senior business analyst was providing advice to a new business analyst and recommended using a matrix for their requirements modeling format. What is the purpose of this type of format? So the technique of a matrix, what is its purpose? To clearly describe the requirements in an active voice, to create a visual representation of the set of requirements, to provide an easy way for the business analyst to model the requirements, or to convey a set of requirements that have complex but uniform structure that can be broken down. Which one of these is the purpose of a matrix?
Let's say B, as in boy,
Okay, why do you like B?
because of the visual representation of for the matrix part of it. It could be B or it could be C. I just couldn't remember exactly which one. So,
Okay,
but it's usually with the data modeling part of it when you're doing the matrix part of them for the requirements.
okay. I've got to vote for B. I've got to vote for C, kinda.
Kinda.
I want to
I'm
vote for D,
prob-
as in
Oh, for
dog.
which one?
D
That's
is in
what I was
dog.
gonna say. Yeah.
Why do you like D?
Because a matrix can show different relationships to the same requirement. And I'm just like looking at a matrix and thinking of how difficult it would be to write that out as opposed to showing it in a matrix.
Like a comparison or something.
Uniform structure is a
Yeah,
key here.
also voting for D.
Okay, so this one, provide an easy way for a business analyst to model requirements. Easy is not a criterion whenever we're talking about selecting models.
Yeah. Okay.
A visual representation is going to be a diagram.
A description of a diagram. Yeah.
Okay. And whenever it says active voice, that's a key that is talking about a text model.
Yeah. I found it now too. So
You'll get it. Okay. Sandy has been hired as a lead business analyst in an ongoing project. The outgoing lead handed her a set of requirements for the initiative that were already documented and modeled. What task might Sandy do next? So if your requirements are already documented and modeled, what would be your next logical task? Would it be to accept the requirements, define design options, verify requirements, or define solution scope?
I'm probably not, this is probably not Baboky, but I don't know Sandy, so I would probably want to verify.
Okay,
I would
Sandy,
agree with you, Michelle. I was going to
you
say
are
verify
Sandy.
requirements.
You're Sandy, and you've been given something, and you want to check their quality, right?
I would.
To
Oh, I'm Sandy,
verify.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds pretty darn Baboky to me.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the input to verify requirements is requirements specified and modeled. That's also the input to validate requirements, but it's easier if you've already gotten them verified. Validated, verify, yes, verify. Quality, the Y in verify.
Quality,
is
the Y,
quality.
yep.
Man, oh, Stephen is joining us. Let me let him in. I forget to look over there whenever the class has already started of people joining late. Okay, so verify requirements is what you do whenever you have some requirements and they haven't been verified. You got to get them verified. They were been specified and modeled, right? But not yet verified. Welcome, Stephen.
Hey, quick question there, please.
Yes, Kasi.
So will you say that verify a requirement and validate a requirement are used to say two different things in the Babok?
They're two different tasks entirely. You want to look at them?
Okay, I can go back and check that, but so
Okay.
I mean the reason why I ask is so the correct answer was verify requirement, and then in the explanation they said specify a model requirement are input to verify, validate, and define.
Yeah. So let's okay, I'm gonna stop and we're gonna do this real quick. So here are the two tasks to verify and to validate. A lot of people get these mixed up. So I'm not concerned at all that you're asking this question. Let me make this just a little bit smaller and this one a little bit smaller, and you can kind of see all of it. Okay, so verify, the way I remember it is verify and quality both have the Y. And in my brain, that's what I needed, okay? The reason that you verify is to say, is this even a good requirement? Is it smart? Is it documented in a way people can understand it? I mean, you start with that, right? And once you be sure that your requirements have the quality that you want, going through the characteristics of requirement, the verification activities, and using checklists, you're going to then go to validate to say, okay, these requirements are good. I wrote them well. I didn't leave out important details. The acceptance criteria is good. Now I'm going to put them all together and say, do they really describe something that's going to solve the need when we build the solution? I mean, are there any gaps? You know, did I forget a menu or did I forget a sign-on? You know, who has what access to this application? Did I forget any of those things? And of course, you're working with other people. You're not only checking your own work. You know, so other people are saying, you know, I understand this. I need this, or please, you know, put more priority on this one thing. You're working with other people, but you work first with the quality and then you work, is it going to create the solution that will fill the need? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I kind of clarify it a little bit more. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, a quick question. By the way, thank you so much. Last week you sent this file to me. Of course, it is very self-explanatory and easy to understand, but still I wanted to ask the column 4 element, it is different steps within the same task. For example, task 7.2, it has different elements within it.
Yes. Yes. It's like having, let me think of a good analogy. It's like if you load your dishwasher, you're going to get all your silverware together and you're going to put it in the silverware rack. And you're going to put all your cups on the top shelf, except for those really tall ones. They have to go on the bottom shelf. And you're going to put all your plates on the bottom shelf on the right-hand side, and your pans in the back of the bottom shelf. There's multiple steps to get loading the dishwasher. Well, this is loading the dishwasher, and here's your multiple steps.
Okay. Okay.
Make sense?
A lot. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to say that someday to somebody, you know, that doesn't have a dishwasher, and they're like, what? A tub of water. I've done that before. So, okay. We are past this one. Let's go to the next one. As a business analyst, you are given the following elicitation information. The database shall support the generation and control of configuration objects, and the objects are themselves grouping of other objects in the database. Why would decomposing the above information be critical to you? I'm going to read it again because it's not easy to understand. The database shall support the generation and control of configuration objects, and the objects are themselves groupings of other objects. So this is going, why would decomposition of this be important? Information decomposition would prove that the business analyst is well experienced, and this would give the stakeholders confidence. That sounds like a really good reason. Let's just pick that answer.
No.
Information decomposition should be avoided as it takes more time and can lead to project delay.
No.
Information decomposition would help identify anything that must change or not change to meet the business need or any missing components. Information decomposition does away with all assumptions as it is done on an actual project. What can we eliminate?
A and B
I like
can
A?
eliminate. Yeah.
How about B? You like B?
Eliminate.
I think that can be eliminated too.
Okay, so we're down to C and D. Why
I
do we
like
think
C.
you
I
like
was
C?
gonna say I like C as
I like
well.
C too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree
Okay.
with C.
Let's test C. This is exactly the reason you do decomposition, to make things more clear. It's really impossible to create good user stories or acceptance criteria on things that are ambiguous. That's why we are very, very specific on our acceptance criteria. That way there's no question. The developer doesn't need to come ask you, what do you mean by this? This would be, what do you mean by this? Anna, a junior business analyst, is seeking your advice on how many models she should use to best meet stakeholders' needs in a given context. What would you advise her? How many models to meet stakeholders' needs? Using more than one model would create confusion, and so she should use only one to avoid confusing the stakeholders. Business analyst does not make such decisions. Such decisions are made by the solution architect and developers only. Each modeling technique has strengths and weaknesses and provides unique insights into the business domain, and so using several of them would complement one another. Use the simple models to get the job done easily and quickly.
I like C
I like C as well as the answer.
because they do have strengths
Strengths and
and
weaknesses.
limitations. Yeah, weaknesses.
True.
You can
Anybody else?
complement one and the other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's test C.
C.
So let's talk about why C is right. It basically says use any combination of models to best meet stakeholder needs. Models can be done at different levels of granularity, and I'm sure y'all have heard this term, but I want to go into it a little more deeply. Have you ever seen the diagram? And it's embedded in my brain. I wish I could take it out and show it to you. It's a diagram of an airplane up in the sky at 40,000 feet, and then a little dashed line down through the different levels of altitude down until it gets down to the ground. And the idea is this is high level view, you know, strategic, high level, don't know half the details, but we think we know what's going on up here. And as we get further into the project, we go further down until we are firmly on the ground and we understand somewhat into the weeds. That's levels of granularity, okay? Models can be levels of granularity too. You start with a context model. That's the wrong word. It starts with a C. It's basically, we've got 6 things that are related to each other in some way.
Concept?
A concept. Yep.
Thank you. So it's just high level. It's like, do we have all the things, you know, this system, this API, this department, whatever, do we have all the things? Well, that's not enough for the developers or the architects to be able to make any changes. They need something that's much more refined. So you start with the high level, and that gives the information that you need to get people oriented to the project. And then you make it more and more granular. And it may be that, Michelle, because you're in sales, I make only the processes that are in sales on your model. And then Sandra, because you're over in warehousing, I make the processes about warehousing on your model. Y'all don't need to see each other's models initially, at least, because honestly, too much data confuses people and they're trying to relate to it. Sometimes you have to give them only what they need, especially if they're a little bit panicky. If they're, you know, they like to ask a lot of questions, you only give them what they need, right? That's why you give them all the models that they need to help them understand whatever you're trying to convey. But it may be a high level and then a, you know, process model and a data model or whatever they need. But it needs to be specific to what information they need to be receiving and at the level of granularity that they need to orient themselves to it. Make sense?
Yes.
All right, let's move on. The following are guidelines and tools under the validate requirements task. Which one is not? So this is not verify, so it's not quality. It's validate, where we're talking about the solution. Okay? Which one is not? 3 of these things are not like the other. Is it potential solution, solution scope, business objectives, or future state description?
Potential solution.
You think potential solution is the one that is not, correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. I heard a yep, let's check it. This is not listed in the BABOK. Potential value is listed. Good catch. Thank you for speaking up, Aaron. Which of the following output describes the requirements and interrelationships among them, as well as any contextual information that is recorded? So it's an output of a task. It describes the requirements and the interrelationships among them and contextual information that's recorded. Would it be an information management approach, information architecture, requirements architecture, or requirements traced?
What's C?
Do you say B as in boy?
No, C like Charlie.
C like Charlie. Thank you. Requirements architecture.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
probably
Arena, I didn't realize you were in the waiting room. I hope you weren't there too long.
No, I'm sorry. I had visitors and joined late. Yeah, now I'm with you.
Okay, I hate leaving people in the waiting room, but I forget to watch over there after the meeting started.
No
So-
worries. I just joined.
Good. I'm doing good then. Great. So requirements architecture. I've got 1 vote for this. Do I have a second vote or vote for anything else?
What
Second
about
vote. I see it. Going once and twice, this question describes the output of the defined requirements architecture task. Very good.
What about traceability? What is the output of the traceability? I mean, what
The
is
requirements traced.
Yeah, what is that?
That is in a previous chapter.
Okay.
Let me go back to it. Trace requirements is in the requirements lifecycle management. It's the very first task. Requirements traced and design traced are the 2 outputs from that task.
It is between requirement design and test, right? So this is tracing.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Then when we trace between the requirements, design, and test, then
Yes, that is traceability. Yes, exactly. Okay, the next one, which one is not, of the following is not an element of the analyze potential value and recommend solution task, which is the last task in this knowledge area. Gotta scroll all the way back down. Is it determined value, expected cost, expected outcome, or expected benefits?
outcome. Mhm.
So 3 of these things are elements, 1 of them is not. So let's go to the purpose of this task. It's estimate the potential value for each design option and establish which one is most appropriate to meet the enterprise's requirements. So to do that, would you determine value of each design option?
Yes.
I am
Value
eliminating
criteria.
C because value, cost, and benefits all kind of mean the same. Not the same, but
Okay,
yeah,
Because you
that's why I
determine
eliminate
value,
C.
expected cost, and expected benefits.
so are you saying C is the answer since this is a not question?
Yes.
Okay, let's test C. This is not one of the elements. The other element is assess design options and recommend solutions. So in this, you've got expected benefits, expected cost, determine value, and assess design options and recommend solutions, which include available resources, constraints on the solution, dependencies between the requirements. Those are all the things that you need to do or be aware of whenever you're doing analyze potential value and recommend solution. Good reasoning. You have just created stakeholder and solution requirements. What task did you just finish? So that means that this is the output. These are the outputs of a task. Is the task specify and model requirements, verify requirements, prioritize requirements, or structure requirements? First, which ones can we eliminate?
So maybe A is the right answer.
Yeah.
Specify
B
model
is the
requirement.
right answer. Anybody else agree?
I agree.
I agree.
Let's test it. Creating requirements is another way of saying specify and model. That's what we're doing in specify and model, isn't it? What are the inputs for the verify requirement task? So we know which task we're in. We want to know inputs.
Mhm.
Verify, remember, is quality. Are the inputs requirements validated, requirements in transition, requirements signed off, or requirements that have been specified and modeled?
D.
D.
Yep.
Mhm.
D.
Yep. Y'all are really getting this well. Good job. Anna has assembled a team to define design options. What inputs will they need to accomplish this task? So define design options is the task, and so we want to know the inputs. Would they be validated and prioritized requirements, change strategy, requirements architecture, traced requirements, change strategy, requirements architecture, validated and prioritized requirements, change strategy, enterprise architecture, or traced requirements, change strategy, enterprise architecture?
A, maybe.
Why do you like A?
So I like this requirements architecture instead of enterprise architecture. So I eliminate options with enterprise architecture. Then then we choose between validated and prioritized requirements.
Traced. So I would say
Traced
A as well.
These are the inputs for the define design options task. I appreciate you walking through your reasoning. That helps us all. Okay, next. Carmen has been hired as a senior business analyst in an ongoing effort. Initial elicitation activities have been done, and now she is now determining the best way to transform and represent the elicitation results into requirements in order to define the change. What would Carmen consider when modeling the requirements? So what task is she doing?
Specify model requirements.
That is the task. So she would consider when modeling the requirements, would it be context, audience, and purpose, solution, audience, and value, purpose, change, and context, or change, need, and context?
I think you have to consider the audience.
Okay, so you like A or B?
Yes.
Okay.
Better.
Why do you like the audience? Because I was just about to eliminate that.
Could be wrong, but I think that if you're gonna, because it talked about modeling, and sometimes you make different models for the requirements depending on who the intended audience is.
The different levels of abstraction.
Yes.
So which one do we think, if it is audience, would it be context and solution, purpose, or value?
I'm just guessing A.
Okay.
I would think that it needs to be, you need to consider context. So I would say context needs to be part of it.
I would choose D, to be honest. Looking at all options, I don't know why. Yeah, because change context. Yeah, I like the context too, and need.
Okay.
And change. So this, for me, it's more logical compared to audience. That's why I'm asking, yeah, why audience?
Right. Well, let's talk about it. Does anybody have a different opinion?
I also believe D because it reminded me of those 6 core concepts for the business analysis. And the D is, these are, of those 6 core concepts, isn't it?
That's true. But would she consider that whenever she's modeling the requirements?
It is better to consider all those 6.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the word transform to me, I would probably say change too.
Okay. Let's test D, see what we can get.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Change and need are not
Audience.
considerations when determining the form, level of detail, and what's being modeled. So we're looking at the form, level of detail, and what's being modeled, all dependent upon the context, audience, and purpose.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. Any questions on that one? It's going to be in the very, very front of chapter 7.
If only we remember it.
Well, that's why
none of
you're
us will
taking
forget that
notes
now.
right now. You don't forget it whenever you get it wrong. That's one
Yeah,
reason I don't worry about getting stuff wrong now. I want to get it wrong now so we can learn. The business analyst has finished an elicitation session and has confirmed the results. What would be the logical next step for the business analyst? Would they do item tracking, specify and model requirements, verify requirements, and define assumptions or constraints? Now, I'm going to remind you that the BABOK has this little bit different than the way I would do it. Normally, I would be specifying a modeling requirements during the elicitation session.
And it's here after it's B is the correct answer.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
want you to do this afterwards. So the idea is you come back to your desk and you say, okay, I've taken all these notes. Now I'm going to make a diagram, or now I'm going to make a data flow, or now I'm going to create a grid and turn it into something like that. So that's when you specify and model, is after you finish elicitation and you said, do I have this right? How we do it here in the BABOK company is the way we have to do it to answer it on the test. You have interviewed key stakeholders to uncover their business needs. You become aware of many factors that the stakeholders think are true, but which have not yet been verified. You decide to document which of the following. First of all, what is this thing? Factors people think are true, but haven't been verified. What's that called, according to the BABOK?
Assumptions.
Assumptions. Okay, so document. What are you documenting? Oh, assumptions. I'm sorry. I should have asked that part. Yeah, assumptions are factors that are believed to be true, but has not been confirmed to be accurate, or that could be true now, but may not be true in the future. Assumptions are, I think the best word is insidious, because people don't even have to say them for you to have to grasp that they have that belief. Which of the following is not true about business rules? Business rules shape day-to-day business behavior. Business rules change and can be implemented quickly if they're managed by a single enterprise-wide engine. Business rules are exclusively expressed and managed through implementation technology for a given solution. Or business rules guide operational business decision-making. Let's start with A. Is A true?
Yes, I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
A is true. How about B? Can they be implemented quickly?
Not necessary.
Yeah, I like the second part of that
I've
either.
seen where that might not be true. Let's go on. Are they exclusively expressed and managed through implementation technology for a given solution?
No.
No.
No,
Okay, so we
because
have
that
two that
exclusively.
potentially,
I think C's a
right?
hard
And
no.
business rules guide operational business decision making. I kind of like that one is
Yeah,
true.
indeed.
So B or C, which one is most not true?
C.
C.
See.
Let's test C. Business rules should be expressed and managed independently of implementation technology,
Mhm.
not through
It would be
implementation
better if it said
technology.
quicker, not quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think here's an example of if it changed quick, it could be implemented quickly would be something like anybody who has had more than 5 absences cannot access the PTO scheduling thing. You know, it's like, okay, it's easy to implement that quickly. Or customers who spend more than $5,000 will be sent a application for store credit card. So it's like, okay, we're gonna change that to $4,000, and all those people get, you know, the 5 to 4 get the credit card. So it could be quick if it's managed well.
Tia, can you go back to 18,
Yes,
please?
18.
Okay, 7.1. Okay, thank you.
You're quite welcome. Do you want a screenshot of this?
I got it, thank you.
All right. Okay. What is the purpose of the specify and model requirements task? So it's the purpose of the task to ensure that requirements and design specifications and models meet quality standards and are usable for the purpose that they serve, to analyze, synthesize, and refine elicitation results into requirements and designs, to ensure that all requirements and designs align to the business requirements and support the delivery of needed value, or to fit the individual models and specifications together to ensure that all the requirements form a single whole.
B, maybe.
A, maybe?
Say B.
B.
I'd agree with B.
Yeah,
I-
because it's
same here.
elicitation results, and next task is specify and model requirements.
I'm going to walk through it. So this is the purpose of this task. And then this is the purpose of the verify and requirements task. So the quality after that. And then this is the purpose of validate, the one after that. And then this is architecture. You know, Irina, good. The project team is in the process of confirming compliance with organizational and business analysis performance standards, correct use of modeling notation, and completeness within each model, and that items determined to be important are included in the final requirement deliverables. What tool would help with carrying out these activities? So we are in the last task in this knowledge area. Would it be item tracking, metrics and key performance indicators, control chart, or a checklist?
Well, it's not KPIs.
It's not KPIs. You're right. That has a totally different purpose, doesn't it?
Maybe checklist.
Yeah.
I like checklist.
Sure. Yeah.
Checklist is one of the elements in this. My other class said, you know, I've read the BABOK 16 times and I don't remember ever seeing checklist in it. But checklist is one of the elements, things you do for this task. Good job. How is the core concept of change in the business analysis core concept model applied at the requirements analysis and design definition knowledge area? So change of the BACOM in requirements analysis and design RAD knowledge area. Is it elicitation results are transformed into requirements and designs in order to define the change? A change control process is defined. Changes to requirements are frozen so they can be effectively modeled and baselined, or requirements are transformed into designs through various modeling techniques. Let's start with A. Is this the definition of change for this knowledge area?
It could be.
Yeah, could be.
I like the way it sounds too.
Change control process is defined. Is that the
No.
definition for this change?
Design definition.
It's got the word change in it. I don't think it's talking about this one though.
No.
No, I don't think B is, right?
And how about requirements are frozen? Is there
No.
anywhere in here we talk about frozen
No.
requirements? Requirements are transformed into designs through various modeling techniques.
So A looks better.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would say A.
Let's test A. The BABOK states that during requirements analysis and design definition, business analysts transform elicitation results into requirements and designs in order to define the change. Very good. In what task are requirements allocated to a solution component or a release? Is it in the specify and model requirements task, verify requirements task, analyze potential value and recommend solution task, or define design options task?
Between C
Yeah.
or D. Maybe, yeah, because allocate, not about A or B.
Right? It's not documenting the actual requirements.
Oh, it's later in the process. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the quality.
This.
This is figuring out what our options are, but I think
I think
we're
it's
going to be
C.
right here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it is design.
So this purpose of this task is to estimate value for design options, not allocate requirements. Let me go back to my list over here and let's look at it together because I messed it up too. Define design options, solution approaches, improvement opportunities, requirements allocation right there.
Yep. Describe design options.
So
Yep.
define design options has the requirements allocation in it. Okay. I think it's part of the, if we were to do this, how would we do it? Before we get into the, here is the actual one that we're going to choose and move forward. Okay. Which of the following describe common non-functional requirement categories? Would it be reliability, availability, scalability, traceability, reliability, compatibility, scalability, dependability, reliability, readability, scalability, localization, or reliability, compatibility, scalability, localization?
So reliability is everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Scalability everywhere. So we choose between second and fourth option, right?
Yep. So what do we think about availability and traceability?
Non-functional.
Non-functional requirement categories.
Mm-hmm.
What does dependability? I can't recall and understand the dependability. Which kind of quality is that?
The application will be available 98% of the time on Monday through Friday between 8 and 5.
So then B, but meanwhile, I can't recall localization. That's also a quality
Yeah, and-
perhaps.
So readability, I don't remember that too. So I would exclude
A
C.
non-functional requirement.
C.
I would exclude it, yeah, because readability, it
Right.
sounds strange to me.
Readability doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that one
I don't think traceability is right. In A.
I
Traceability, yeah. Also
I've got
exclude.
one vote for D.
Reliability, compatibility.
And
I
one
kind
Yeah.
of like B as in boy because of dependability.
Dependability.
I don't remember localization either.
I don't remember that one either, but
Okay. Let's
I
try
think B
B.
is good.
Oh man.
Oh, it is D, localization.
Dependability is not a non-functional requirement category. I am so sorry. I spouted that off like I knew what I was talking about, didn't I? We have used that term outside of the BABOK apparently.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called then.
or perhaps
So
what
there
you
are-
said, maybe localization, kind of.
Localization is one. So there's 4 here. There's 11 other categories. That means that there's 15 categories in non-functional requirements.
And where is
And
this found in chapter 7?
This is going to be non-functional requirements you're going to be documenting in chapter 7. And so you're going to use the technique number 30.
Yeah. Let's see now.
Technique number 30.
I think non-functional requirements ISO 25010 will be a good cheat sheet to remember these things.
You know what? I understand what you're doing by looking outside the BABOK. For this test, I encourage you to not look outside the BABOK.
Yeah.
No matter how good the material is or what
Yeah.
how reputable the resource is. For this test, just use the BABOK and the
Okay.
watermark book on the BABOK.
Makes sense. Oh, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna submit exam. 84%. So what I'd like to do, I feel like y'all have a really good grasp of this, but you're still getting a couple of details, and we're uncovering them. We're getting better. We're identifying where we can improve. I'd like to do chapter 7 again next week.
Okay.
And it's 30% of the questions on the test are chapter 7.
Wow.
So
Sounds
even though
good.
I really want you to have a passing score in all of the knowledge areas, because I've seen people get a passing score in, say, 4 of the 6 knowledge areas and not pass the test, which makes me think you really have to have a passing score in every single knowledge area. So I want you to get exceptionally good score in chapter 7, just because it's 30% of your actual test. And we'll do chapter 7 again next week. And then we'll talk about, do we want to move to chapter 8? Okay.
Can
Yes,
I
Elise?
ask you? I have a question. When you model this drill exam, right? Do you select, because I missed at the beginning, did you check this techniques or underlying competencies for this or not?
No.
Uh-huh.
Whenever you just choose a knowledge area, it will pull a few of the techniques that are critical to that knowledge
Uh-huh.
area. If you choose a techniques and this, half of your questions are going to be techniques. For some reason, it just weighs it really heavily.
Mhm. Yeah, I tried it at home. Yeah, and I noticed. I'm wondering how you choose this for our class.
No,
It's-
I just chose this one for today, and you saw it pulled a couple of techniques that are heavily used in
Oh,
this
and
knowledge area.
for the exam, when they say so 30% of this knowledge area, does it cover techniques and competencies or not?
It will cover techniques as they apply to every single knowledge area. That's why whenever I gave you that spreadsheet, I said, go through the techniques as we go through the knowledge areas, as we go through the tasks. so that you can learn the technique with the purpose of the task. And I've seen people try to do all the techniques before they go through the knowledge area. It's very dry. You don't have anything to relate it to. Or wait till after all the knowledge areas and try to go through the techniques. Oh my goodness, you are so tired by then, you don't care anymore, right? So this is the best way I figured to do it.
Yeah, okay. And one more practical question. I received email that the discount $50 for the exam valid only until end of May. Do you know anything about that?
I do. Let me show you what I know about that. I was making a thing a while ago. Let me go to this one. Home. We were in this one. Let me scroll over to it.
Oh yeah, it was a good session.
Here we go. So if you're an IIBA member and you apply to your application fee, you'll get $50 off until the end of this month. So being an IIBA member will mean that your application fee is already reduced, and this gives you an extra $50 off. The membership rate, the fee to become a member it's less than how much money you save for applying for this test before this starts. But now it's another $50. So the application, we probably need to get that in before the end of this, get your application fee paid. And at that point, you've got some time to turn in your application after that. So if you haven't done it, or if your company is going to be paying for it, I encourage you to get the application fee paid before the end of this month.
Yeah, okay.
And I don't know if it's going to be a rebate that comes back to you or if it's going to be just a discount. So whenever you talk to your boss about it, tell them it's this much, but I don't know if we pay $145 up front and then they give us $50 back a week later or what. So I want to give you that warning.
Oh, I'm paying by myself. So that's why I'm interested in this discount.
I like discounts. Discounts are good.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Anything in chapter 7 that is eating your lunch?
I have a question about the exam too versus like the watermark.
Sure.
I wanted to look at getting the practice test myself, but I think the most you can get it for is 90 days. But our exam won't be for more than that. I just don't want, I'd rather do it closer to the time.
Let me check something real quick here.
So you have plus 5 days from watermark for free. And by the way, I can show you my experience. I tried without it, and now I'm practicing with watermark. It's much more effective to buy it and practice together with watermark.
Yeah, that.
Okay, so 90 days is what you can get. Irina, have you had it?
Yeah.
Have you gone through your whole 90 days yet?
Yes, 90 days, and discount Tampa 21 worked for me, so all good. So I paid 95, I think.
Right.
If 95, yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's much more effective, even if you don't have time to read book. Better to before going to bed, like give one more cycle. It helps much more for me. I don't know, it's sharing my experience. It helps much more than just reading. I tried reading in first chapters, just reading, and doing practice here less effective than doing it more at home.
I think the
Because no
practice
one will
test
ask
makes
you
you
to read
think.
the book at the exam. They will ask you to answer questions. So it's
sure.
And
So-
reading, you feel like you're just memorizing, but with the practice test, you're actually thinking about the process
yeah.
and what you've learned. So
So
yeah.
I was even thinking maybe, so it's my strategy. I don't know why I paid earlier. Maybe I will speed up like end of July and we'll get this exam sooner than we finish the course. Maybe. So it's by end of this 90 days. But my 90 days already started and yeah, clock is ticking.
So Michelle, are you concerned that you're going to get a 90-day thing and need it longer than that?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. What if I wanted it longer?
Okay, so here's what I'm going to tell you. I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to finish chapter 7 probably next week, maybe the week after. Then we're going to spend 3 weeks on chapter 8, and then we're going to start doing chapter 7 and 8, chapter 6, 7, and 8. We might just do chapter 8. I mean, if we start having trouble with something specific, we will go back and focus on it. But we're going to start adding chapters together, and we're probably going to spend 2 months working on multiple chapters together. You're going to be ready to take the test in 90 days. So, I mean, and even if you aren't, you can still use the 40% off on the 30-day, and it's just that much longer, right?
Right.
So I'm going to think that most of y'all, if not every single one of you, are going to get to the place where it's like, I'm doing good. I'm going to go take the test. And because every single person that has been in every single one of my classes have waited. It's like, I want to take it, I just want to study for one more week. And they push out their test, they had it scheduled and they push it out. And then they come back and they go, I could have taken it 2 months ago. I could have done it. Or
That'll be Irina.
I believe it.
No,
Or-
I just have my own deadline. I have a schoolboy and I have to complete this exam by start of school year. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, different reason for that, but yeah, it should work.
So here's the deal. If you get prepared and you're making consistent, reasonably consistent passing scores on each of your knowledge areas on your own individual tests, and you go take the test, you're probably going to pass. I can't say you'll pass. If you don't pass, it will not kill you. Okay? And I mean, I'm an example. I didn't pass the first time. I had test anxiety and all, who cares what it was? I didn't pass. You come home and you make your test for a week later, and you take all that knowledge you still have in your mind and you study, and then you go back and you take it. And guys, I passed. I got exceptional or exemplary or whatever it was, higher scores in 4 out of the 6 knowledge areas the second time I did it, because I knew what I was doing. I'd taken the test. I knew what it was going to be like. I didn't have that unknown, oh no, how do I do this thing? I have confidence that every single one of you, especially if you're participating in class, if you're coming in and you're just sitting back there in the corner and not even listening to us, I can't tell you you're going to pass. But those of you who are participating, I have high confidence that you're going to be able to pass. Okay?
Thank you.
Tia,
Okay.
a follow-up question, perhaps we have discussed it already, but still I wanted to ask once more. Is there a recommendation that you have? What should be like our overall score while we are taking the watermark exams before taking the real examination?
I think if you can make 75 on each of your knowledge areas, you're fine. Now, if you can make better than that, great. But at some point, your brain is going to get tired. I don't want you to hit this thing where it's like, it's not even worth it to study anymore. If you're not going to let yourself go try, you can't succeed. So make 75 consistently, and I think you'll be fine. Now, I'm going to say this. You weren't in the class whenever I said this in earlier classes. We don't know what the passing score is because it's not published. It's a sliding scale based upon whoever's taking it at this time. So if 1,000 people are taking it and they're all doing great, the score is going to be higher. But we think it's probably about a 71, 72, just based upon what people were making before they went to take the test and if they passed or not. So if you can make a 75, I think you're going to be just fine. Okay.
At the end of the test, does it kind of let you know where you scored well? Or?
So you hit the button to say submit exam, and within 30 seconds, you have a message on your screen that says either you passed or you didn't pass. Then you get an email that will say, here's your status. I'm gonna tell you, Kasi recently took the ECBA and passed it, of course. And he did it because he already had it scheduled. So he just went and he got kind of a pre-test. How is the test going to be? He did not get an email. He got an email from PSI, which is the testing center for his ECBA test, that said that he had passed. It took a full week for it to show up on the IIBA website.
Wow.
Now, I
Okay.
talked to the people in our regional meeting and I said, this is not up to our standards. This is not the way it's been in the past. What's going on? Do we need to fix something or have you changed processes? And they went, oh, that's weird. So they're going to go back and look at it. I believe that that is because they made some changes to the ECBA test. You know, they made it easier. They made it where you didn't have to have certain requirements before. I think that's what it is there. For the CBAP, I'm going to tell you my experience. I got a message on the screen, and by the time I got home, I had an email from the IIBA that said, these are the scores that you made on the different knowledge areas, but it's not the score. It's either the word higher, the word past, or the word lower for each of the knowledge areas. So I
Okay.
don't know what the score is, but I knew how I compared against everybody else.
Okay.
Okay. So I think I've asked y'all this. I'm so sorry that I have too many classes. How many of you have started your application?
Haven't
I
yet.
Yes,
started
you
messing
started?
with the one you gave us, like the Excel sheet.
Right, the Excel
So
sheet.
that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You started that, Michelle?
Yeah, I started that, just messing around
Okay.
with it a little bit.
But
Okay.
to pay for exam, we need to complete the application or
No.
first payment? No.
No, there's the application fee, which gives you the privilege of putting your application in.
Mhm.
You have to pay the application fee, then you get to put your application in and submit it, give them a week to do the review, and then they come back with the message, an email, and something on the IIBA website that says your application has been accepted, you can now schedule your test. So you've got a kind of a process there. I encourage you to spend some time working on your application. Go ahead and pay the application fee if you can, so you can get the discount, especially if you're an IIBA member. Pay the application fee before the end of this month, but you don't have to immediately have your application ready at that point. You just have at that point the privilege of putting your application in. Okay?
Mhm. Yeah, thanks for explaining.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Do
Uh,
y'all want to have a session that we walk through your application so you can ask me questions? Would that be beneficial?
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it as a group or do you want to do it individually?
Personally, I have it completed and verified, and I think Tamra, please correct me if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. She also got it already.
She's got hers
Mhm.
done.
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah.
Once your application is submitted and accepted, you have a year from that point to take your test. But don't put it off, guys. I've seen the statistics of people that take the watermark courses and the bluegrass courses and the adaptive US courses. They take the course, like 80% of them never go take the test.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
because it's like it becomes such a big thing. Just we're sliding into it. We're doing really great on chapter 7. We did good on the previous chapters, or we wouldn't have left those. We're going to do great on chapter 8. We're going to do great as we start compiling. We're going to hit a couple of speed bumps because we're going to start looking at stuff we haven't looked at for 2 months, right? That's okay. But by the time we get there in 90 days, y'all are going to be ready to go take your tests. Before that you get to that point, though, you need to have your application submitted and accepted and your test scheduled. And you can move your test if you schedule it for September 1st and you come up to mid of the month before that and go, I don't think I'm going to be ready. You can push it out a month. You can push it out 2 weeks. So it's movable. But setting a date for yourself, setting a target, kind of puts your feet to the fire and says, okay, this is what I've got to get done. Okay?
Sorry,
It's
Tia.
true.
Tia, can you please repeat again? So once I schedule an examination, do I have the chance to change it again? How many times do I have the chance?
I don't know if there's a limit.
I can speak on that. I mean,
Oh, please,
Okay,
Kasi.
perfect.
it's not recommended, but you can change it, honestly, as much as you want. But
Okay.
don't want it to do that. Like they
So
ask.
I can schedule it for the next month, and then later on I can change it as many times as I need it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. The only limitation to scheduling an exam, first of all, your application has to be accepted. Secondly, then they turn you over to the PSI scheduling center or program, and then you are at the mercy of their availability. You know, if they can only let 5 people in their testing center at a time and they already have 5 people scheduled for the day you want, you're not going to get availability on the day you want. So scheduling it a little bit ahead of time is a good idea.
Yeah.
Um, How many of y'all are planning on going to a testing center, and how many of y'all are planning on, let's just do, how many of you are planning on going to a testing center?
I go definitely to the center.
Yeah, I'm going to
Testing center.
I think that's probably best.
testing center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there several times. It's very easy. So they arrange everything. I don't
They
have
take
to
care
care.
of it, right? And how
So
many
the
of y'all
only
Go
the
ahead.
only thing they don't allow water, at least at our test center.
Nope.
It's 3 hours and a half. I don't know.
No water?
really?
Wow.
I think
Nope.
when I was taking it online, they told me I can remove the label and keep it in the, clear bottle. But I don't know about
Really?
the center. Yeah, I don't know about I can't speak for that, but
No.
online,
So they
Yeah.
don't want brands in the.
yeah,
They don't want labels because that way you can have
Yeah.
cheat stuff on the label.
yeah.
Oh,
No, they protect
I had the
equipment, what
option.
they explained, yeah, and you have to go out of the room, but it's your time. It's clock is ticking, and you may walk out as you want, but it's not interesting.
You can go to the bathroom whenever during the test. I mean, 3.5 hours, you might need to. And then whenever you leave the bathroom, you've got to go out and have them check you again. I would not be surprised if you could get a drink whenever you go back out, to the lobby. While they're checking you. I don't know. But I didn't try.
So what about coffee? I was thinking to go with my tea and coffee and those stuff. No?
No
What
snacks.
about that?
They're
So
not there to make you comfortable.
In Europe, they allow, by the way, they allow water. So I
Yes.
passed my PMP exam in Europe. It was allowed. Here, not even no water, and it was
Yeah.
strange.
Wow.
Well, it's because Americans are trickier than Europeans. No, I don't know. Anyway,
They protect equipment. I asked what is the reason behind this. It's just water. They protect because if you spill the water on a computer, and they protect equipment.
Okay. All right, maybe.
Well,
Is anybody
Kasi, he basically described last as like TSA. So just don't go with anything.
Yeah. Is
Sounded
anyone
worse than
planning on
TSA.
taking your test at home or at a different place that's not a PSI? Everybody's going to PSI? Okay, good. Kasi, you went to the library, is that right?
Can you please repeat that? I didn't get it.
Did you go to a library to take
Yeah,
your
library. I reserve a room in the library. Yeah.
and you had to use the camera and look under the desk
yeah.
and everything while
Yes,
people
from
were
the
looking at the
table,
glass wall?
under my
Yeah,
palm, like everywhere. It was, I told
Yeah.
you, right? That like
yeah. He
when
said
people
that
were
was the
reading,
hardest
they were
part.
looking at me like, is it okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. Funny, you know.
So and
He said
someone was watching you on the camera always. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
always,
Yeah.
always.
Always.
And they will send you a chat like if you move your mouth for, to read something or you turn your head too long. Listen, I was like a robot for like an hour. It was stressing. That's why I'm like, okay.
Don't
but they
move,
still
don't
have-
talk, don't do. Yeah. Wow.
Don't breathe.
Well, okay, so let's be real about this. I've heard these things. If you move your mouth whenever you're talking, they challenge you, who are you talking to? Because they can't tell if you got, some way of talking to somebody. If you look up at the ceiling and think They will say, what are you looking at? Okay. Their whole purpose is to keep us honest, right?
Yeah.
They will watch you, but you can, stop and do this thing and, stretch. That's okay. You are allowed to be a human being, and the stress, the tension, sometimes you just kind of got to go,
Yes.
and then come back.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what I'd like to do is, instead of doing your applications all together, because sometimes somebody might have a question that they don't want to have to ask in front of everybody else, okay? And if we do it individually, that allows me to do a screen share with you and see what you're looking at, and we can talk about what results you're getting. And that's a whole lot faster than you trying to explain it to me and the group and everybody asking you questions. So I'd like to ask you to work on your application on the spreadsheet. And I'm not expecting perfection. Just get your stuff in there. Get everything in there you can think of. And then I'm going to challenge you. What about this? What about this? What about this? And because I want you to get the most hours you can whenever it's on there. Whenever you're putting your application information in, it's going to ask for a description for your company, for the work history. I'm going to encourage you to use 2 sentences, no more than 2 sentences, because it doesn't give you characters, a space in the application itself, and describe the purpose of the project or something like that. And you can smush multiple projects into one column. I worked at this company and I did kind of this, and this. It's fine. You don't have to separate your projects out unless you did a whole bunch of elicitation in this project and then a whole bunch of solution evaluation in this project. You're not going to have the same percentages in those 2. So you can break it up if you need to make it easy for you, but make it as easy for you as you can. Number 2, whenever you're describing your project or the company, the purpose that you're doing, be sure you're speaking in business analysis terms and not project management terms. You can be a project manager and use that experience, but explain it as a business analyst. It's not, I monitored deadlines and created the statistics for executives, which is very project management. It is, I worked with the team to, make it business analysis, because at one point in the history, maybe not now, but in history, they were actually disqualifying things that look like project management. So explain it like business analysis, okay? Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to ask you to do is, over the next, say, 60 days, work on your application and make time with me, and we'll just look at it together to get it ready for you to submit. And I'm going to just check the math to be sure that you're covered for the knowledge areas, because you have to have a certain number of hours for a certain number of knowledge areas. I'm going to talk about your education portion that you have to do to be sure it's right for you. We can do it on Zoom, so we don't have any international phone calls, and that way I can see your screen as well. Okay? All right. The best way to reach me is through LinkedIn. I'm on there 6 or 8 times a day because I'm posting jobs on my job group, trying to help everybody I can. If y'all have any jobs you see, I would really appreciate you putting them on the job group. You don't have to put explanation, just repost to the job group and help somebody else out. All right?
All right.
Okay, guys.
I'm actually going to be posting a position for a business analyst soon, so because I just had one resign.
Is it a virtual position or in person?
But it's kind of both. It's 90 days in person, and then so it is. Do you only post the fully virtual ones?
No. The reason I'm asking is I know some people who are looking for jobs, and
It's in Southwest Florida, so in Port Charlotte, kind of middle of nowhere. But like I said, it's
That
90
sounds
days in
exciting.
person, and then you can live anywhere in Florida but you have to live in the state of Florida because they don't want to deal with the taxes.
okay, so what if the person was willing to relocate?
That's
Yeah,
fun. That works.
we just had
Yeah.
somebody relocate from North Carolina, so yeah.
Well, that sounds very familiar and wonderful. I know some people that might be interested. If you'll send me the job first, I'll send it to those people.
I absolutely will. I just got to rewrite it a little bit to take out all the project management language because my
Gotcha.
project management.
Okay. You might actually know some of the people I'm going to recommend, so we'll talk about that later. Okay?
Okay, great.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you for your focused attention. If you have any questions, if you want to shoot them to me on LinkedIn, I'm happy to answer. All right?
Thank
All
you.
right.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everybody.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.